They came across the Atlantic with little more than hope, faith, and recipes carried in memory. In the early 1900s, thousands of Portuguese immigrants from the Azores, Madeira, and mainland Portugal settled in the fishing towns and mill cities of Massachusetts. Life was hard. Days began before dawn on the docks of New Bedford or in the textile factories of Fall River. But in small kitchens filled with steam, garlic, and olive oil, they rebuilt a piece of home. Meals were humble: salt cod, kale soup, fried dough, and sweet bread baked on Sundays. But every bite told a story of endurance and belonging. Food became their bridge between two worlds: the rocky coasts of Portugal and the cold shores of New England. These are the 30 foods Portuguese immigrants actually ate, the flavors that built a community, one meal at a time. Number 1. Bacalhau. Salt cod. No ingredient defines Portuguese identity more than bacalhau. Dried and salted cod was cheap, portable, and lasting, perfect for immigrant kitchens. In 1900s Massachusetts, fishermen and factory workers alike soaked it overnight, then simmered it with potatoes, onions, and olive oil. Bacalhau a Gomes de Sá, or bacalhau com natas, might appear on Sundays, turning a simple fish into a celebration. It was more than protein, it was Portugal itself, reborn in a cold New England kitchen. Number 2. Caldo verde. Kale soup. A humble soup that became the heartbeat of every Portuguese household. Caldo verde was made from kale, potatoes, onions, and a bit of churrico if one could afford it. In mill towns, it simmered quietly on the stove, feeding whole families after long shifts. The rich aroma of garlic and greens filled crowded tenements, reminding immigrants that even far from home, they could still taste comfort and dignity. Number 3. Churrico. Portuguese sausage. Spicy, smoky, and deeply seasoned, churrico was the pride of any Portuguese kitchen. In Massachusetts, immigrants cured their own sausages using pork, paprika, garlic, and red wine, hanging them in basements or barns to dry. It flavored soups, beans, and stews, bringing warmth to long winters. Churrico wasn't just food, it was family labor and cultural pride wrapped in natural casing. Number 4. Feijoada. Bean stew. Adapted from old world traditions, feijoada became a staple in immigrant homes. White or kidney beans were stewed with bits of pork fat, sausage, and vegetables. It was rich, smoky, and sustaining, ideal for workers who needed strength for 12-hour days. Every household had its version, but the message was the same: nothing wasted, everything used, and flavor born from necessity. Number 5. Broa. Portuguese cornbread. In early Massachusetts, cornmeal was cheap and abundant, a perfect match for broa, a rustic bread from northern Portugal. It was baked dense and crusty, eaten with soups, or dipped in olive oil. For many families, broa replaced rice or potatoes when money was tight. The scent of it baking filled neighborhoods, marking the weekend, a small luxury in a world of hard labor. Number 6. Sardinhas assadas. Grilled sardines. In summer, the smell of grilled sardines drifted through Portuguese neighborhoods like a memory of the Azores. Fresh sardines, seasoned with salt and flame-grilled, were eaten with bread, tomatoes, and red wine. Even in crowded New England courtyards, families recreated the street festivals of Lisbon. It wasn't just a meal, it was community, laughter, and identity preserved through smoke and salt. Number 7. Cozido à portuguesa. Boiled dinner. When Sunday came, families gathered for cozido, a one-pot feast of meats, vegetables, and beans. It was Portugal's answer to the New England boiled dinner. In working-class homes, cheaper cuts replaced beef or sausage, but the spirit stayed the same: abundance, togetherness, and gratitude. Every pot of cozido was a declaration that even in exile, tradition lived on. Number 8. Arroz doce. Sweet rice pudding. Simple yet deeply nostalgic, arroz doce was the dessert of every Portuguese kitchen. Made from rice, milk, sugar, lemon peel, and cinnamon, it was served on holidays and baptisms, or just when someone needed cheering up. Immigrant mothers stirred it slowly, tracing cinnamon crosses on top before serving. It was a taste of home, tender and pure, in a land that often felt cold and foreign. Number 9. Malasadas. Fried dough. Before Fat Tuesday, Portuguese families fried malasadas, golden pillows of sweet dough dusted with sugar. In Massachusetts, bakeries in Fall River and New Bedford kept the tradition alive, filling the air with the smell of frying dough. For mill workers, malasadas were more than a treat. They were joy itself, a moment of sweetness before returning to the grind. Number 10. Favas com churrasco. Fava beans with sausage. A hearty stew of fava beans, onions, garlic, and slices of churrasco. Immigrants grew fava beans in backyard gardens or small urban plots, keeping one link to their rural roots. Slow-cooked and deeply flavorful, this dish represented self-sufficiency and connection to the land, even in a crowded American city. Number 11. Polvo a la Guerrero. Roasted octopus with olive oil. For Portuguese fishermen in New Bedford and Gloucester, octopus wasn't exotic. It was comfort food. After a long day at sea, they roasted it simply with garlic, potatoes, and olive oil. The smell filled boarding houses near the docks, carrying men home in spirit even if their families were still across the ocean. It was a meal of strength, chewy, rich, and unmistakably from the Atlantic. Number 12. Sopas do Espírito Santo. Holy Ghost soup. This dish was more than food. It was faith made edible. During the Festa do Espírito Santo, a major Azorean festival still held in Massachusetts today, families prepared beef soup seasoned with mint, garlic, and bread soaked in broth. It fed entire neighborhoods after church, symbolizing charity and divine grace. For immigrants who owned little, sharing this meal meant everything. Number 13. Batatas assadas. Roasted potatoes. Roasted potatoes, simple, filling, and universal. For Portuguese immigrants, they were the backbone of every meal. Cooked in pork fat or olive oil, sprinkled with salt and paprika, they stretched small portions of meat and made even the poorest table feel complete. In every kitchen, a pan of batatas assadas reminded families of Sunday dinners back home. Number 14. Couves com azeite. Boiled greens with olive oil. Kale, collards, or cabbage, whichever was cheapest at the market. Boiled greens drizzled with olive oil and vinegar were a staple side dish. They balanced heavy meals and reflected the resourcefulness of immigrant mothers, who knew how to make even the simplest food shine. This was peasant wisdom passed down through generations, green, clean, and nourishing. Number 15. Calderada. Fisherman's stew. Calderada was the sea in a pot, a stew made with whatever fish the day's catch brought in. Cod, mackerel, or even scraps from the docks went into a tomato broth with onions, peppers, and garlic. It was communal cooking at its best, fishermen pooling their leftovers to create a meal rich enough for everyone. In a world of uncertainty, calderada tasted like home. 16. Alcatra. Slow-cooked beef stew from the Azores. Alcatra was a special occasion dish from Terceira Island. Beef simmered slowly in clay pots with red wine, onions, and spices. In Massachusetts, families saved it for weddings, baptisms, or holidays, using whatever beef cuts they could afford. Its deep aroma filled homes, uniting family and neighbors in long, joyful meals that softened the sting of distance. Number 17. Milho frito. Fried cornmeal. An Azorean classic adapted to American cornmeal. Immigrants would cook cornmeal with garlic and greens, let it cool, then fry it into golden cubes. Crisp outside, soft inside, milho frito was a favorite at gatherings, inexpensive yet irresistible. It symbolized ingenuity, taking the ingredients of the new world and making them taste like the old. Number 18. Peaks frito. Fried fish. Whether it was cod, smelt, or perch from local waters, fried fish was everyday food for Portuguese families in coastal towns. Dredged in flour and pan-fried in olive oil, it was eaten with lemon and bread. Cheap, quick, and nourishing, Peaks frito kept workers strong and reminded them of life by the sea, familiar, honest, and sustaining. Number 19. Grão de bico com. Bacalhau, chickpeas with cod. A cold salad of soaked chickpeas, flakes of salt cod, onions, and parsley, drizzled with olive oil. It was light but satisfying, often served during Lent when meat was forbidden. For immigrants, it became a weekday staple. Cheap protein, no waste, and a taste that echoed the Mediterranean sunshine they'd left behind. Number 20. Massa sovada, Portuguese sweet bread. Soft, rich, and slightly sweet, massa sovada was baked on holidays, especially Easter. Made with flour, eggs, sugar, and lemon zest, it was a precious indulgence in a world of labor and sacrifice. Mothers baked loaves to share with neighbors, wrapping them in cloth to keep warm. In every bite was love, faith, and memory, sweetness born from struggle. 21. Pão com churrasco, bread with sausage. A working man's meal baked right into the bread. Pão com churrasco, crusty rolls stuffed with spicy Portuguese sausage, was easy to carry to the docks or textile mills. It needed no plate, no utensils, just strong hands and hunger. The aroma of smoked paprika and pork fat followed Portuguese workers through the mill gates, a quiet reminder of home tucked into a lunch sack. Number 22. Feijão com arroz, beans and rice. Simple, nutritious, and endlessly adaptable, beans and rice anchored the immigrant diet. Red kidney beans simmered with onions, garlic, and a little salt pork turned into comfort food that stretched across the week. It fed big families for pennies. For many, feijão com arroz wasn't just dinner, it was the taste of survival. Number 23. Galinha com arroz, chicken and rice stew. Before it became a Sunday favorite, chicken and rice was a clever way to stretch one bird across several meals. The chicken was boiled for broth, the rice absorbed every drop of flavor, and the leftovers filled next day lunches. It was humble cooking, but deeply seasoned with garlic, bay leaf, and love. Number 24. Azeitonas e pão, olives and bread. Before dinner, every Portuguese table, even in the tightest quarters of Fall River's tenements, began with bread and olives. It was a ritual of gratitude, a pause before the day's exhaustion faded into family chatter. The olives were briny, the bread coarse, the meal simple. But to immigrants, it was civilization in miniature. Number 25. Sardinhas assadas, grilled sardines. On summer evenings, the smell of grilled sardines drifted through the alleys of New Bedford and Taunton. Men fired small charcoal grills in backyards or alleys, roasting fish until the skin blistered and crisped. Served with bread, potatoes, and laughter, Sardinhas assadas turned narrow city yards into seaside festivals. Number 26. Ensopado de cabrito, goat stew. When families could afford it, often for weddings or saints' days, goat stew took the spotlight. Slow-cooked in red wine with garlic, onions, and mint, Ensopado de cabrito carried the old country flavor straight into Massachusetts kitchens. It was a taste of celebration and sacrifice, rare, rich, unforgettable. Number 27. Arroz doce, sweet rice pudding. Every grandmother had her version. Arroz doce, creamy rice pudding flavored with cinnamon and lemon peel, was the universal comfort dessert. Served at baptisms, funerals, or after long workdays, it sweetened life's rough edges. The scent alone could silence a noisy house. It smelled like childhood, faith, and home. Number 28. Favas guisadas, stewed fava beans. Fava beans simmered with tomato, sausage, and onions. Hearty, earthy, and full of old-world comfort. In early immigrant kitchens, they were a substitute for more expensive meats. By slow cooking them with pork fat or churrasco, families created a meal that tasted far richer than it cost. Number 29. Cavacas, Portuguese popovers. Light, crisp pastries glazed with sugar. The immigrants' answer to donuts. Cavacas were sold at church fairs and family gatherings, sometimes baked in shared ovens. They represented joy. A few eggs, flour, and sugar transformed into celebration. In immigrant neighborhoods, the smell of cavacas meant Sunday was coming. Number 30. Maranhos, stuffed goat sausage. A rare delicacy from Barabaixa. Maranhos were made by stuffing goat stomach with rice, mint, and spices, then boiling it until tender. In Massachusetts, it was a once-a-year tradition, a link to villages left behind. The flavor was bold, earthy, and unlike anything else on the immigrant table. A final reminder that identity could survive oceans, wars, and generations. From fish stews to sweetbreads, These 30 dishes tell more than a story of hunger. They tell of hope. Portuguese immigrants arrived in Massachusetts with little more than recipes in their memories and the will to work. In milk kitchens and crowded boarding houses, they recreated their homeland one pot at a time. Every bite carried language, laughter, and love across the sea. And though the world around them changed, the food, honest, humble, and soulful, remained their truest legacy.